temperature check, so I would know how to frame my speech better. How many of you feel experienced in DeFi, Decentralized Finance? Okay, some. How many are like experienced or know at least something about DAOs, Decentralized Autonomous Organizations? Okay, cool. Then I have something to tell you. And who knows this picture? Who knows this painting? No? Another thing to learn. This is called Black Square, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So, it's really hard to describe myself nowadays because I'm trying to try everything. But mostly I'm interested into organizational aspects. That's why I'm interested in DAOs, first of all. I love product management, design thinking, this kind of stuff. And trying also be creative and trying to explain complex things through art or culture. And I associate myself with several companies. Fire Labs is the company that sent me here that organized this event, which is a development house, which I founded 8 years ago, and then we got decentralized, and now I'm not CEO anymore, happily. Then one of the other companies, in Fire Labs, we do mostly blockchain and FinTech stuff, and design thinking workshops, product design thinking. Then Dgov Network is the non-commercial entity I launched with a few partners almost 1.5 years ago on the wave of the interest to DAOs in general in the governance of the crypto networks. So, for example, when Ethereum or Bitcoin would like to put some changes to the protocol, it's really hard to agree with everybody to switch on the same moment and to even define what is right and what is wrong. So it gives lots of interesting challenges. And in Dgov Network, we collect engineers, mathematicians, politicians, and facilitators, all the people who try to manage complex systems from the different points of view, and we're trying to solve this challenge. So we will have better governance in the future in both crypto networks and not only. Then Beetle is the community of blockchain engineers in Ukraine, and I'm now doing the product management for them, for the new version. Giveth is one of the biggest crowdfunding platforms in crypto that funded many projects, both open source and social. You should check it out, it's pretty cool, but the new version would be also even better. So, I want to, I usually talk about DAOs and stuff, but today's topic is slightly different, and the story behind that is connected with this guy, being Andreas. He with his friend Gustav are both Swedes, and they took this funny car, like our local car, and they gone through the many Eastern European countries to find a place where they want to stay and build a company. And luckily they selected Ukraine, and now they also set up this company Bitrod and Bitrod Academy, which teaches great engineers in 11 cities. But also I know Andres because we both love this organization, and he also loves to throw parties. And on one of the parties, I started to talk to, there were many Swedish people that live in Ukraine, and Ukraine school work with Swedish, and I was going to everybody and saying what do we have mutual between Ukrainians and Swedes? And many things were named, but the thing that was mostly repeated was progressiveness. So I decided to talk about this progressiveness, and especially in the cultural aspect. So it's something we share and something that might be interesting. And last 3 years I spent in the crypto trenches. I went to lots of conferences, supported many open source projects, went to many hackathons. We've developed lots of startups in the space. So this was a crazy time. Just to keep up, I followed, when I tried to follow the news, every week there was 3 100 or 400 articles about what's happening in the space, and it's even now in the 2017 or 18 it was even worse with the crypto boom. Everybody wanted your attention. So I saw some tweet from the venture capitalist guy. I couldn't find it quickly, but he said something like, usually when I need to learn a new market, I ping several of my friends and I become an expert. Like I know how to make my way into the market in a matter of like 1 or 2 weeks, but it doesn't work in crypto because it's too, like the pace of changes is too fast. So that's what I mean by progressiveness, the speed of change that happens and waves of technology that come. And also one of my, like when I learned first about DAOs and the crypto scene, I was like super inspired, like we will build these tools and they will change our life. But finally, tools are not enough. Without the social technology, without the work with people, it just won't work. So I wanted to touch this aspect. Like closer to that, I will tell a bit about the technological experiments, but first of all, the thinking and the cultural aspect that led in the first place to trying something like that out. So back to the painting, the black square. Is it? Oh, that was a bad idea.
White square.
Is it? It's back, yeah. Yeah, it's in the very corner. So the guy who wrote it, it's Kazimir Malevich. He was born in Ukraine, spent some time in Russia, has Poland roots, but we like to call it Ukrainian. So it was the start of the 20th century, when previously all the like drawings were like as realistic or maybe expressionist. And then this guy comes out and like draws this, he called this suprematism. And one of the distinctive characteristics was this black square in the corner. Like in our culture, usually like that was the place where the icons of saints were put. So this is the most holiest place like in the room. And he put the black square saying like there is no God, there is no rules, like we start everything from the scratch. And that's for me how people in the blockchain space feel. So they try to go as much off, like start something new, go like do not go to this legacy system. There's lots of these revolutionary ideas. Of course, it's also connected to the fact that many of the people in the space are young white males, like full of testosterone, and they want to push and they want to make a dent on the universe. But also, it has something to do with reimagining the whole system. So that was this analogy. And yeah, we still don't, like, this adoption is not there, but ICOs created some kind of, like, I don't know what will be the time of sustainability of this bubble, but there are some funds thrown in, and now the ecosystem tries to balance itself to like distribute these funds and come to some earnings in some future. So like when people say that like, I don't know, Bitcoin gonna die or like it's all gonna end, there's still lots of money that are managed in an interesting way, and I'll come to that. But yeah, the whole challenge is like it's hard, but we need to like crypto guys do everything from the scratch. Also, one of the distinctive things in culture is that most of the teams do not work at the same place. So the online idea of the crypto or the forums that created this movement and so on brought like almost no crypto company. Like there are of course different examples, but most initiatives, most projects are started by people who don't live in the same country even. So the simplest example is if you want to do something, you launch a Telegram group, you put it to link to different forums or other Telegram groups with the idea you like to do. People come, you build the initial community, and like in the early days and still, people who founded it, you can easily find them in the chat, you can send them direct messages. So it's really open, like about openness and transparent in the end. That led to like, because we need to build this collaboration. We don't have direct connection working together, we need to set up this trust level and community-related focus. That we do this for us together, unlike let's have some profits for the I don't know, managers and everybody else will gonna strive somehow. No, and also as everything open source, this leads to the anti-extraction models. So if it's not open source, it mostly won't be supported by the community, so no engineers will come and help you build it. It won't be used by the users usually because they won't trust that it's a good piece of code, they won't trust funds to this thing. But if it's open source, you can't just put an easy monetization model, I don't know, subscription or something, because anybody can fork and set the subscription to 0 or less. So this makes you think about the value of the network rather than how you can easily get money from the specific people. Also, there is this cultural code. Somehow people in DeFi and DAOs, they are strongly aligned on some things. So it's even who was that? Joe Lubin from Consensus. He says that, for example, Ethereum it's not a technology, it's like a movement. I'm not sure, I'm not agreeing 100%, that it's only, for example, movement and not technology. But for sure, many people, even without meeting each other, are starting from the same point about their vision of the world. And it's supported through crypto Twitter and finally memes. Memes became a really big thing that, for example, you know the Doge coin? This whole coin is built around the meme. Everybody loves the dog. The most loved coin ever. Doesn't represent much of the difference or uniqueness as a coin, but based on the ideas put behind this stuff, it got really high in the value. Yeah, and also there's this currently cultural shift with at least in this field that previously people wanted to have status and they wanted to be on top of things, and in this culture everybody tends to be self-ironical and candid, be funny about ourselves, for example. And one of the good examples, for example, what you can get from the crypto conference and what happens all the time, is this song from the last DEF CON that took place in Prague. Who was in Prague last year? Nobody? So many people think that it's really crazy, so be prepared. Oh, okay. It was the closing of the conference, and this guy, he showed on the stage almost every day. He wrote this song, and the last song he wrote was based on the tweets people did during the conference.
I assume the influence of Zen-Buddhism in her management style. Oh yeah, what's the middle equivalent of moon? Such that conform many crypto economics. Wow. Well, it's easier to sell users on a 12-word seed phrase after they've earned value to their account. That's true. Bear market DevCon, more fun. Bull market DevCon, public speaking stresses me out. Oh, BYL, Casper's coming, spread it in new ways. Grab a market DevCon to you. What I see over is worth to do. You gotta be seeing Dr. Rose speak, I must admit, the tears flow freely.
get the idea. And this happens like every 2 months in major cities. Hackathons happen at almost bi-weekly. And this whole movement is on the same, it's synchronized in this way of thinking. And as they don't, and they build blocks to this system, they just start collaborating between each other. So whenever somebody has an idea, they don't enclose it under NDA, develop it for a year, and then present it with a big presentation or conference. They just push it all the time, and some people catch up on that. So for example, there is DAI, the stable coin in Ethereum. Straight after that, so it was ported to the side chain, and it was XDAI. Then the other guys, they made RDAI and so on. So it's an iterative process where everybody shares everything. No authority is respected, and everything is open. And another cool idea about that is it's not just engineers who collaborate in that, as it's more of cultural and economical movement. More people from the comers from the other fields join. One of the interesting collaboration was with the Radical Exchange. There is a book called Radical Markets by Glenn Whale. But they describe the economic model of better rent for the real estate or any other big objects that are used in the city. And they collaborate together these economical ideas. They get Ethereum engineering ideas, and they start doing that, and we see that in many fields. So it's taken out its way out of just being the technology. Also, one of the good things that support that is this ecosystem thinking and DAOs, and I will tell you a couple of examples. So, for example, Moloch DAO. First, let me tell you what DAO is and what DAO isn't, maybe. So, DAO is described like decentralized autonomous organization, meaning the organization which is there's no one point of decision making. Usually, many people can make decisions about what's going with this organization. Autonomous because it's on blockchain, you can't take it off, so you can set up some operations, some mechanics. For example, you produce services and you exchange the services for crypto, and this all runs this processes on the blockchain. But this is more like a vision for the future. Currently, DAOs are basically the funds that have many investors or shareholders, and there is some mechanic by which this shareholder distribute this fund to whatever needs they see fit. So, for example, Moloch is one of the biggest now in terms of value. It's not huge compared to whatever can be found, but for the experiment they collected around $1 million in Ethereum. Many people, prominent people from the Ethereum space contributed, like Vitalik Buterin or Lublin and Ethereum Foundation and so on. So they collected this fund, and whenever somebody wants to do a project that supports Ethereum, for example, I don't know, make a developer tool or make a conference or anything, they write a proposal saying, hey, I want to do this, I need this amount of money, and then everybody who contributed to this fund, they vote on whether this is a good proposal or not. And if most people that voted think it's good, the money goes to that person. So this is how it works, and Moloch is quite new, but it got this traction, and after that we will see if we can create even better fund. There's also a long experiment with Genesis DAO, which is a DAO that supports DAO development, which exists for more than 2 years. But the whole problem is that, as I mentioned, it's not just technology, because if you just throw the technology there, the first thing you see would be the voters' apathy. So even if people are interested to give money, they're not always interested to review 100 proposals per month that go to this fund. They have better things to do. They maybe want to delegate, or maybe they are not interested about some specific proposals, but others, and so on. So you need to establish some point of collaboration, and like this picture in the corner is regular calls that happen like weekly to manage this fund. Even with like 20K, we are trying to agree on, for example, what would be the strategy of this fund, or what would happen if a person said he would do something, we give him money, but then he doesn't perform, what happens, and so on. So there's lots of interesting questions because this is a new field, and we are completely out of the like legal space where we can regulate it somehow, because everything permissionless, and we may not even know the like real name of the person. It's always like some accounts, but then the reputation can vary. So you might not even know this person. Like I have some people in my Telegram chat which don't have real name, that I never seen, or maybe I've seen but I didn't know it's there. But then I trust them because we worked for, I don't know, a year. They commented on the forum and we collaborated and they proposed something. So this is kind of new setup we need to figure out. And another cool case, which is not completely DAO, but somehow uses mechanics of DAO, is Aragon. So Aragon was one of the most successful ICOs. Right? It's not like they didn't just get money from the ICO, they got maybe, I don't know, 50 million from ICO and another 50 million from VCs. So they had a big bank. Of course, because of the price fluctuation, it went up and down, they balanced the sheet, but anyways, they have lots of money compared to the startup that just happened like 1 or 2 years ago. Instead of hiring like 100 developers, like, I don't know, I think some projects try to do that, but not successfully. They try to just hire people to do all the ideas they had at the time. At the same time, at that time they were raising funds. But Aragon did different. They have this small core team that is and the Aragon Association. So all funds went to the Aragon Association. There is like this core team that creates requests every year to the Aragon Association to have a year funding, for example, for, I don't know, $500,000 for their operations. And everything else is requested from the ecosystem, the community. So if anybody wants to build an Aragon application for their operational system, they do this proposal, they write it on GitHub, everybody sees it, so this is like a public tender. So first they write what they see the ecosystem might need. For example, we need an app for easier accounting, and they describe it, and then it's decided whether it's a good idea or not. And then after it's decided, teams can apply, telling that I want to do this, and I will do this for these terms, and so on. And then if their proposals goes through the shareholders voting, if whoever has tokens of Aragon can vote on these proposals, and if it mostly supported, they get the funds. So it creates a good, like nothing stupid is created in this way in the Aragon, because it's not like all the time. If you want to go ahead, you need to be engaged. You need to really feel the need. You need to do some communication work and win this budgeting, instead of like, let's just hire some 20 developers and they will do something. So it increases efficiency. It also provides some challenges, but then the company is really agile. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Check out our website, Fire Labs, what we do, our projects, and in Dgov Foundation you can find interesting research about the network governance and existing DAO use cases. And soon we will have a meeting in Berlin, 24-26 January. We will have a council there. If you would be interested, like, let me know. Thanks so much. Any questions? Then I'm passing the stage to Marco.